Welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on 240 again. I had a friend come down for New Year's and we got a lot of work done, and I did most of that off camera. It was just a lot of tedious stuff, so I'll show you what I did and then I'll tell you what we're gonna do. So the intake's bolted down, like done this time. The plate's glued down, bolted, torqued, blower glued, torqued, good to go. Pulleys figured out, belt on. Unless there's a problem, I'm going to leave that alone. Heater hose bypassing the rear, so it's connecting these two. But there's no thermostat now, so it probably doesn't matter anyway. So welded this guy shut. This guy's got a 3/4 inch hole as a restrictor. I don't know if it's going to work right or not. We'll find out. So that's done. Water system's back done. Injectors are in. Everything's bolted down. I think I've got to hook up the return line for the injectors. Got to find a vacuum source for this. Got to find a brake booster line. It's going to go from here to here, nothing crazy. And I'll probably have to find a T so I can hook up the diverter valve. It looks like my throttle cable is going to work with this LT1 throttle body. The only thing I got to do is open up this hole right here. The cable's gonna work, the length is gonna work, just the hole size right there, just barely too small. So that's not a big deal either. I ordered the injector. It's supposed to be a plug-and-play kit, but either I didn't click the box, but I'm pretty sure it shows that I paid as if I clicked the box. It was supposed to plug into the old plugs and then just plug into the injectors. Doesn't do that. All I got was pigtails, which I planned on soldering them in eventually because I don't like having multiple connections, but that's alright. So right now we're going to solder all those in, and then I've got to figure out the TPS wiring. The old throttle body, this was the TPS sensor, so hopefully I can, ohm it to ground, figure out which one's ground, one's going to be 5 volt, and then signal. So I hope. It's been so long since I wired this, and this one was a weird one. Because that throttle body that was on it, this guy is actually a drive-by-wire throttle body. And I modified it to make it a regular throttle body. Inside of here, the Lexus, the limp home, if you went all the way wide open, you'd have a little bit of throttle right at the end just to get you home. So what I did was modify the inside so that it was hooked up all the time. But in the Lexus, this TPS, this would move the TPS sensor, which would send a signal to the computer. Then the computer would send a signal to the motor to work the throttle. So I don't remember. I remember it was something weird. I'm just going to have to figure it out again. I should really learn to take notes. But we're going to get the soldering in some injector pigtails, and hopefully maybe this thing will kind of sputter or run tonight. Injector pigtails are all wired in. I jumped the relay just to run fuel pressure through it, make sure it didn't have any leaks. It was all good. It's I'm in kind of a little bit of a pickle right now because My dad has my key a couple states away, so I've been having to jump things to get power, which is what I'll probably do to tune it, and I may be able to start it with jumping things, or else I'll just have to wait till this weekend when he gets back to turn the key on and see what happens. So I think the next thing I can do is going to be the easiest thing. I'll drill this hole out so this barrel will fit, because it just barely, actually it fits. Holy crap. I might drill it out so it's not such a pain to get back out next time, but huh, look at that. Man, maybe it'll just go in. No, if I get it in, I won't get it back out. Alright, so anyway, I'll drill that out a little bit so that'll slide in. And then this is the bracket. This was for the kick down on the Dakota. I'll probably just cut this off, put another plate, drill a hole. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. This thing will just sit right there. Hook the cable up and let it rip. So that part is mostly solved, not going to be a big deal. I got to cut this extra linkage off. On the Dakota, I cut the linkage off of a factory throttle body and welded it on here to make it all work, and the cable pull from the front and the kick down from the rear. So we don't need that stuff anymore. So that'll get that. Longer hose for this. The map sensor. It's got an internal map with the ECU masters, the EMU black. I don't know if you can see it right there. See that hole right there? That's tapped for 1/8 inch pipe. Plan was to run it right through here, right through this gap between the injector and the rail. So that'll go in there. I've got to go get a fitting, but I'll get that fitting and that'll be done. Brake booster is going to go to this guy, so that'll be done. The diverter, I've got to get vacuum to it, and I may tee it off the throttle body somehow. I may pull this out. This was for the, I don't remember, crankcase ventilation or something on a Mustang. I might pull this out and tap that and then put a smaller fitting in it, because there's something like the map sensor you want to be on its own thing. You don't want any other diaphragms or anything messing with your map signal. The diverter I'm not too worried about. So if I hook the diverter and the fuel pressure regulator up to the same thing, I'm sure it'd be fine. Got no problem with that. So I'll get that drilled out. We'll get the throttle cable on. I'll get a fitting for that. We'll get it hooked up. And if we get all these vacuum leaks hooked up, I got to change some stuff in the programming, because this had 275cc injectors before. Now it's got 550cc injectors. And it's a standalone, so it's not a crazy process. Nothing that weird. I've also got to scale it for boost now, because it was just naturally aspirated. There's just a whole lot of little things once you do stuff like this. All these little things take a whole bunch of time. 90% of the work takes 10% of the time. Well, we'll get after it. Didn't think you needed to see me put it in, but fitting is in, hose is on. The original throttle cable had this weird bushing thing that I welded solid before for the naturally aspirated motor. So I just took it and welded it to this bracket, and I'll cut this off later. I say that, but it'll probably still be there. But either way, we've got throttle. So I just got to go hunt down some 3/8 vacuum line, get the brake booster hooked up, get this hooked up to here, and fuel pressure and diverter. And I also got some new pigtails, because here's the old TPS wires. The LS400 was a weird thing. It had a 0 to 2.5 and 2.5 to 0, like an inverted thing. They'd swap and do weird stuff. So the whole time I've been using one leg of that. So my throttle's not been 0 to 5 volt, it's been 0 to 2.5, which works fine because I can just change it in the computer. But this will be a regular TPS 0 to 5. Got the new pigtail. This is a 5 volt. Pretty sure this is the ground. It's brown. I'm pretty sure that's it. And then it's potluck on which one of these signals I actually wired in. So I'm just going to have to rig it up, hook the computer up, and see which one actually does something. And then that should be that. I wasn't going to worry about wiring in an idle air control. I may change my mind later, but if it runs without it, good enough. This thing doesn't have AC. It doesn't, when the fan comes on, it doesn't draw a lot. It's ran fine, naturally aspirated without all that stuff. So I think we'll be okay.
Well, I got all those vacuum lines hooked up, all except for the fuel pressure regulator. I think I'm going to drill and tap this thing somewhere, maybe underneath it. I'll figure that out later. TPS is all wired in. Diverter, it's got vacuum going to it. Brake booster, it's got its check valve, it's got vacuum going to it. And sorry guys, I did not give you a first attempt start, but it did start very quickly. Oh, come on. Air temp sensor, make an intake tube and all that stuff. Intake air temp's going to have to go in the bottom so I can compensate for the supercharger for the heat. So whenever it cold starts, it doesn't like it because it doesn't know to compensate for it because it's got no intake air temp. It can only compensate for coolant temp. It's alive. It's alive. I went and drove it yesterday and we're trying to be easy on it right now. I've got the diverter zip tied open. I drove it with it working properly, and this thing's aiming for the moon with boost, and it's not going to do that for too long before it blows it up. These things are good for about 7 psi boost. The rods are real thin, and also it's really hard since it never had boost, trying to dial it all in at that boost level that quick. Real pain in the butt. So I've got to order a larger pulley. Now I did zip tie the diverter open, and it stopped at about 120 kPa, which is, you know, just a couple pounds of boost, but it's safe. So I can drive it around like that. Before, it went up to like at 60% throttle. Just getting into it, was already at 220 kPa, which has got to be around 16 pounds of boost or so. And that was only at 65% throttle, so I don't know if it was going to keep on climbing or if that was going to level off. But either way, that's too much. So it's all together. Now it's got to start working bugs out of it. Get a larger pulley and drop the boost down. Intake tubes next, and then start cutting the hole in the hood. Well, that's it for this video. I left out some of the tedious stuff because it just consumes a lot of time and it's plain and simple. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this car stays together and I don't pop this thing and I can keep playing with it a little better and a little better. It's still got the automatic trans in it. Once I get all this figured out, I really want to manual swap it. My buddy's starting to do some drift stuff and I want to get into it too. So that's the plan for this car. I really don't want to destroy it, but it's a good car to play with. So anyway, look forward to more videos. It's probably going to be a couple weeks before the pulley gets in before I really start doing anything else, but I do want to go ahead and get the hood cut. I got to make the intake tube and those things just to keep crap out of it. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.